Welcome to Postcards to the Universe with Melisa Caprio. Do you believe in magic? What if you were told that all you had to do was get a little creative and work a magic spell to bring anything you can imagine into your life? Here on Postcards to the Universe, we will share manifesting, tips, postcards, creativity, abundance, and prosperity. Here is your host, Melisa Caprio.
Hello and welcome to Postcards to the Universe with Melisa, creating the life you crave. How's everybody doing? I hope you guys are doing well. Today is Wednesday, my favorite day of the week. I love when I get to do this show. I hope you guys are doing good. I actually am I have a fever. I've had a fever for the last 2 days. It seems to be my only symptom. So I'm a little achy and feverish, but good news is I can do this from home. So it's awesome that I could still do the show because I wouldn't want to miss doing my show. Today I have a really cool guest. She's author Tisha Morris with her book, Missing Element, Hidden Strength. And so I'm excited to talk to her because we're going to talk about applying the natural strength of all 5 elements to unlock our full creative potential. And she's going to join me in just a minute. To my regulars, welcome. Thank you for joining me each week. Love having you here. It means the world to me. And for those of you who are new to tuning into my show and you're here for the first time, I want to give you a big welcome. Thank you for being here with me today. A little bit about me. I am also an author and a photographer, and my book is titled Postcards to the Universe, Harness the Universe's Power and Manifest Your Dreams. And in my book, there are 30 manifesting stories, along with the photographs that I took of the contributors' manifesting postcards. And a manifesting postcard is kind of like a mini vision board. Everybody sort of knows what vision boards are. So that's what a manifesting postcard is. And in the book, I include some writing exercises, and it helps us get clear on what it is we want to manifest because we're not always really sure exactly what it is. A lot of times we think we know, but it's a feeling we're going for, like joy, happiness, love, but we're not really quite sure to get it. So the writing exercises, it helps us get clear on what that is that we want. And there's also a bunch of processes in the book that helps us on manifesting love and money, health, career, and so much more. So if you are interested in doing these inner work exercises and reading people's incredible journeys of transformation, inspiration, and manifesting, please go to your favorite bookstore or you can purchase it online. For those that are like, what is this manifesting postcard? I always ask for everybody to send me one. And if you have no idea how to do that, you can find out how to do that on postcardstotheuniverse.com. And also the address to send them is on the website too. And I tell people how to create a manifesting postcard. If you're on Facebook, and you like public groups that are uplifting, you can find mine. It's called Postcards of Love, and you can join me there and share uplifting, funny stories and posts. And each week, I do mention this each week too, I share a magical message that I post on social media. And it's an image of a manifesting postcard that I received. And I like to photograph it with its affirmation because I like to focus on affirmations for the week. I talk a lot about that weekly on the show. I think affirmations are a powerful way to, to have a new thought, become a new belief in our lives. And this week's message, magical message, is embark on the adventure. So, taking an adventure, and I don't mean necessarily just traveling, I mean a personal adventure too. Wait not for the time to find you, but for the find the time to find the road that is meant for you. So ask yourself, who am I? What am I here on earth to do? And what is the purpose of my life? Embark on that journey that is uniquely yours and make your life an adventure. And I read this quote, it's from a book by Ray Smith. The book's called The Magnolia That Bloomed Unseen, and I just loved it. And this is the quote. It says, "I am merely at the midway point in the novel of my own life, on around page 250 of a 500-page tale. There's no reason why the next 250, 300, or even 350 pages will not be far more exciting than the first half." And I just love that so much. I sometimes find these quotes and save them and write them down so that I have them, because I just love them so, so much. Okay, so next week I have Corrine Kenner, and she specializes in bringing metaphysical subjects down to earth. She's an author, astrologer, certified tarot master, and the owner of the Haunted Antique Shop and Paranormal Museum in DeLand, Florida. And in her latest book, Gently Haunted, True Stories from the Haunted Antique Shop, Corrine recounts gentle hauntings of her Florida antique shop. So we're going to be talking to her next week. But to get to my guest today, Tisha Morris is an entertainment attorney, feng shui expert, and author who has been featured on ABC's Live with Kelly and Ryan, Law and Crime Sidebar, Hay House Radio, Today.com, Elle Decor, ABC News, and Well and Good. And her latest book, Missing Element, Hidden Strength, explores the 5 Chinese elements that are contained within our energy system. We each embody a primary element, which defines our natural strengths, and a weak or missing element, which reflects our untapped potential. When you embrace your missing element, water, wood, fire, earth, or metal, you can pull yourself out of a rut and bring more harmony and success into your life and work. Tisha Morris teaches you how to apply the ancient wisdom of Taoist principles so you can identify and improve your most challenging element. Moving your desk to the power position and expressing your energy with clothing are just a couple of the ways to awaken dormant aspects of yourself and integrate your creative right brain with your business left brain. It's time to turn your missing element into your hidden strength. So to find out more, you can visit her website at tishamorris.com. That's TishaMorris.com. Welcome, Tisha. Thanks so much for being here with me today.
Thank you, Melissa. It's a pleasure to be here.
I'm so excited to talk to you. Okay, so the first question I have to ask you is, how did you go from being an entertainment lawyer to an author writing books on Taoist principles and the elements and our energy system? Like, how does that happen?
It's kind of the which came first, the chicken or the egg.
Right.
So my first career was as an attorney. And then from there, I actually went into the healing arts, and that's where I discovered these aspects within myself, which happened to be working with spaces. I got a degree in interior design, but then I discovered more of the unseen energies that are lurking around in our space, and that led me to feng shui. And it was in my explorations with feng shui that the 5 elements, which are kind of foundational to feng shui practice, really came into my awareness. And so that's a little bit of how and why this book came about. But a few years later, I decided to put my attorney hat back on, but in a different way. And I live in Los Angeles area, and wanted to get into the entertainment sector. And so that's it. So it's kind of a full circle, but a wider full circle than the original law.
Right. Are you still doing any entertainment law, or are you not doing that anymore?
No, that's what I do primarily. Yeah.
Oh, okay. Yep. So you are still doing that primarily.
Yep.
Oh, how fun.
Yep.
That must be fun.
Yep.
You must meet really interesting people and have very interesting stories. I'm sure you do.
Well, it's great working with creative people and everyone, trying to create projects and tell their story. And so that's what I love to be around.
Right. Yeah, I can totally see that, like reading your book. So we're going to talk about the creativity in using the elements in just a second, but what are Taoist principles? What does that mean? Because a lot of people have heard of maybe the I Ching and Taoism, but they're not really quite sure what that is. So can you
Yeah,
share a little bit for those listening who are like, what are they talking about?
absolutely. So Taoism is a philosophy that's thousands and
Mhm.
thousands of years old, and it originated in the Far East in China, and
Mhm.
over the centuries and hundreds of years, it has evolved into of course politics starts to take over at some point, but in its
Mhm.
origins, Taoist principles or Taoist
Mhm.
philosophy is rooted in these principles that we are all connected, that we are all made of the same stars and dust, so to speak, which happen to
Mhm.
be the five elements. And
Mhm.
it's kind of in our everyday, a lot of everyday quotes in the spiritual circles come out of Taoism, like going with the flow, finding
Mhm.
your flow. We're all drops of water in the same ocean. These are very
Mhm.
Taoist principles, and they permeate through our spiritual vernacular
Mhm.
more than we realize. And but it really was the origin of Chinese medicine. And Chinese medicine, we now practice in terms of qigong,
Mhm.
acupuncture, and also feng shui. And so
Mhm.
that's how I came to know the five elements, is through my being a feng shui practitioner.
Oh, okay. So I always pronounce the T, but it's really more pronounced with a sounds like a D, right? Taoism, like you don't really say it like
I
the
think it's
T.
tomato, tomato. I think it
Oh
can go
yeah,
either way.
okay. Okay, good. Okay. Well then let's hit on what feng shui, because I know what feng shui is, but a lot of people have never heard of that. So
Yeah,
you utilize feng shui, and maybe you can explain to us
yeah,
novices what that is and how people use it.
yeah. So it's harmonizing your space with the Earth's
Mhm.
energy. So it is
Mhm.
being in alignment with these. There's beneficial, or we call in feng shui, auspicious energies, meaning good energies. And there are inauspicious energies, meaning not so great energies. And so
Mhm.
aligning our space with those auspicious energies of prosperity, luck, and so there's a lot of different ways to practice feng shui. I practice more of more modern
Mhm.
version that came to the Western world via the Tibetan Buddhists. And we integrate a lot of human intention into the practice of feng shui now. And I'm mentioning that because I know
Mhm.
your book and your practice is all
Mhm.
about manifesting and putting
Mhm.
your intentions out. So I incorporate using the practice of feng shui and how you set your space up
Mhm.
in correlation with what you want to manifest.
Mhm. Yeah, no, that's good. And in your bio, you even say like moving your something as simple as moving your desk to the power position, or so that would be there's a certain
Yep.
space in your environment, whether it's your work environment, your home, any environment that you are in, and a
Yep.
lot. There's certain areas that are the most, what is it, auspicious for certain
Hmm.
energies, like the
Yes,
family, the
absolutely.
love. So
Hmm.
just moving your work desk to the prosperity area can shift the energy there, correct? Is that how that
Yeah,
works?
that's one of many examples. And also, as you mentioned, the power position. Every room has what we call a
Mhm.
power position, and that is, and so setting your desk up there, your bed is also another place that we sit or lie that is
Mhm.
ideal in the power position. And so knowing these, and honestly, that really, the power position is really just how our fight or flight brain works. It's actually
Mhm.
kind of scientifically wired in a way. So it's not as woo woo as it sounds.
Mhm.
And in fact, a lot of these feng shui practices are now kind of being integrated into
Mhm.
our more modern corporate environments, and named, called something else, environmental design or whatever the case is.
Mm.
So
Yeah.
uh, so yeah, the feng shui is becoming more mainstream. It's just not being called feng shui.
Yeah, yeah, it is. And I know a lot of people that own companies have a expert come in and help design their space for those purposes, just so that they can
Yeah.
be the most productive. Now,
Yeah.
I'm assuming that you, as an expert, you know all the like tricks and stuff. Like, let's say you can't put your, you know, desk in that position, because of the way the room is set up.
Hmm.
You have ways that you can work around that, right? Or you can't put your, like, if it's a relationship you're trying to attract, like your love corner, maybe you can't create something there because, I don't know, maybe your bathroom is there. I don't know,
Yeah. Yeah.
So you have ways of working with people with that, right?
Well, yes and no, and that's
Okay.
a great point and question. Because so feng shui starts with the floor plan, and so
Hmm.
some floor plans are prohibitive of good feng shui. And yes, as a feng
Right.
shui consultant, that's part of our job is to find these workarounds and kind of manipulate the energy so that it does things that we want it to do. But there are some rooms and for rooms of floor
Hmm.
plans that are
Hmm.
not ideal for love or ideal for the power position. And this is why feng shui is best applied before you sign a lease or buy a
Hmm.
house. It's so that going
Right.
in what's a no and what you can live. Otherwise we're a vibrational match to what we find ourselves in. So
Mm.
I have so many people who have bad luck, what they would consider bad luck and love,
Mhm.
or constantly
Mhm.
not having, finding love or whatever. They will have a kind of a not so good love corner in their space. And so it's not that the love corner necessarily is causing it, it's just their vibrational match to a bad love corner.
Right, right. Yeah, it's really interesting when you read about it. I've read a lot about it, and I designed a whole vision board based on the what's it, the bagua. That's what
But
it's
yeah,
called, right?
mm-hmm,
Yeah, yeah. So it
yes,
was really cool about how I wanted things to come in. So I did it with a vision
yeah.
board. Yeah, it was really interesting. But I want to talk about these elements. So I just looked at the clock and I see that we're at the first break. So let's take our break now and then we'll come back and we'll start talking about the elements and the missing elements. So stay tuned, guys. We'll be right back.
Conscious media for conscious minds. OMTimes. Host your show on FM, the radio network of OMTimes Media, one of the more recognized brand names in the conscious community, and is backed by the extensive marketing reach of OMTimes. Hosting a show on FM immediately connects you with our extensive dedicated community.
Hi, I'm Melisa Caprio from Postcards to the Universe, creating the life you crave. Do you believe in magic? What if I told you all you had to do was get a little creative and work a dream spell to bring anything you can imagine into your life? Well, guess what? I've got the spell for you. Postcards to the Universe, a global movement for manifestation, is a casting magical tool for you to use whenever you want. How does living in passion sound to you? Join me in my movement where you get to create in the magical playground. Let's think outside the box and do some playful conjuring. By casting out our desires with a manifesting postcard, we explore our hearts and allow the alchemy of our dreams to appear. And don't forget to tune in each week here on OMTimes Radio with my show, Postcards to the Universe, creating the life you crave at 4 p.m. Eastern Time. I share tips on creativity, abundance, and prosperity, and you will be introduced to the coolest guests, trailblazers, mystics, and creatives who enrich our lives.
My name is Victor Furman. Some call me the Voice. I've always been fascinated with human nature, spirituality, science, and the crossroads at which they meet. Join me Wednesdays at 8 p.m. Eastern on OMTimes Radio, and we'll explore these topics and so much more on Destination Unlimited.
The rainbow is God's promise of hope for you and me. And though the clouds hang heavy and the sun we cannot see, we know above the dark clouds that fill the stormy sky, hope's rainbow will come shining through when the clouds have drifted by. Teresa Caprio is the president and founder of Rainbow Guardian Inc., a nonprofit 501c3 serving the intellectually challenged / developmentally disabled, including autism. Teresa started the foundation in 1995 so she could help make a better life for her intellectually challenged daughter. Her dream is that the Rainbow Guardian will provide the necessary tools and education to help the public understand the special needs population, because it's often discarded in mainstream society. To find out more or make a donation in support, please go to www.rainbowguardian.org. Rainbow Guardian's special mission is to see these unique people live a happy, full life and have a future of liberty and equality.
Welcome back. So if you're just joining me, I have author Tisha Morris with me, and we're talking about her latest book, Missing Element, Hidden Strength. And we're talking about feng shui and the elements. Okay, so I've had other authors on that have talked about the elements. So the 5 elements are, I'll let you describe, you say each one and maybe one characteristic that sort of goes with each element. Go ahead.
Yeah, absolutely. So first of all, what makes the 5 elements that come out of Taoism different than maybe other elemental systems? There's a lot of elemental systems out there. For example, Western astrology, there's some in yoga practices and so forth. The 5 elements that I'm referring to in Chinese medicine, they create a cycle, meaning a circle. And so instead of thinking them of 5 separate energies, they create a cycle of one leading to another. And it really is the cycle of birth, death, and rebirth. Another way of saying that is the cycle of life, or the creative cycle. The creative cycle meaning turning our thoughts into things. So basically the manifestation process of once you get an idea, that kind of comes out of nowhere through literally the air. Then we take that idea and start to put it into motion and create something from it, whether it's a book or a product or a podcast or whatever the case is. And so when I talk about the creative process, that's really what I'm talking about. It's the same as the manifestation process. And so these 5 elements, each one you could think of them as a stage or a phase of that process. And so these 5 elements consist of, and I will talk about them in order in which you would kind of think of them as a formula or template in the creative process. And so water, wood, fire, earth, and metal, and then you cycle back around to the same thing. Water, it's like one big circle. And so it's the water phase where the idea comes in. It is the phase that's kind of what I call closest to God or closest to spirit. It's the phase in which maybe you get an idea on a walk, or while taking a bath, or while journaling or meditating, or even sleeping, like dreaming in your sleep. These are all activities associated with the water phase. It's that when we're introverted, when we're quiet, it's introspective, and that's where we get these ideas from. And so then when we start to do something with this idea, we actually maybe put pen to paper, or start to type it into our keyboard, or start to do a sketch, or write musical notes, or whatever the case is. We start to move into the wood element phase, and we start to make tangible this idea, and we start to get a big picture of what this is going to be. So it's kind of a planning phase. And then you actually start to create or make the book, or the film, or the podcast, or whatever the case is. And this is the fire element phase. It's when yang energy is at its height, where it's kind of the elbow grease and where you put in the actual work into making something happen. And then once you've kind of gotten to all that creative energy out, this project kind of hits a plateau called the earth element phase. And it's here that we start to think about the monetization, think about who my audience is. We take a break, we get feedback, and see, then we move into the middle phase, see what adjustments we need to make. Do I need to edit some things out of this book? Do I need to cut some things out or reorganize things? So that's the middle phase. And then we either go back around the circle and come back around, or complete the project, or complete the whatever you've created. So that's the 5 elements and how each of them work, like I said, in a phase or a circle. Yeah. And so what we also, as humans, we also have all 5 of these elements within us. And this goes back to Chinese medicine. In fact, if you go to acupuncture, for example, the acupuncturist is balancing the 5 elements in your body through the organ system. So, for example, fire is associated with the heart, kidneys with the water element, and so forth. But these 5 elements show up in our personalities as well, and how we run our energy. And it's there that we discover what our primary element is, that meaning what comes the easiest to us, and then what I call our missing element, that which is not so present within us. So that's how, and that's where our missing element is where you're going to kind of hit up against some challenges or blocks when and if you're creating something.
Right. Because whatever your missing element is what you want to, I mean, that's what you focus on, in the book is, because your primary element, things come easy for you. Like, my primary is wood, right? Wood. Yeah. Wood is my primary. So certain things come easier for me. I need to retake the test to see what I'm lacking. I think it's water, but I'm not 100% sure, so I don't want to say for sure.
I would guess.
I think it's
People
water.
Who are, I can tell you're an outgoing person, lots of energy, so wood and fire are going to be your kind of go-to, whereas more of those introversion elements are a little more, got to find those a little bit, dig a little deeper to find those.
But you have a quiz in the book, so which is really cool, is because it's not like where you just put your birth date in and where you were born kind of thing. You have a quiz in the book where you ask questions, and the way you answer the questions, you add it up, and that tells you what you're more likely to be. So you can, if you don't know what it is, you can, when you purchase the book, you can find out and then you could go from there. So what is yours? What is your primary, and what is the one that you have the least amount in your energy system?
So wood and metal are both high for me. I kind of go back and forth to which, depending on what's going on in my life, to which one kind of rules. And then my weakest or my missing element is fire. Sometimes some earth as well. And to your point of with the quiz and retaking it, for example, it's not, these quizzes are not an exact science, but the reason why I formulated it or set it up the way I did is, as opposed to enter your birth date kind of thing, is to make the point that we are all 5 of these. And so the quiz gives you a breakdown of all 5 of these elements. I didn't want to pigeonhole anyone and like, you're this or you're that. You are all 5, but what is your concentration of them?
Right. That makes sense. But you do say that our missing element is the key to our success. So can you expand on that and give us an example of what do you mean by that? Go ahead.
Yeah. So, what we all do naturally is we lean in toward those things that come most natural or easiest for us, which is our primary element. And there's nothing wrong with that. Like, go with, go take the softballs life throws you. I'm all about it. And so, for example, if you're a basketball player and you're the three-point shooter on the team, you're going to practice a gazillion 3-point shots, and you're going to get so good at those, right. To where you're really good. And so we focus our where we put our focus, energy, where energy goes, where our focus goes, energy flows. and so the contrary to that is also true, where we don't put our focus, energy does not go there.
Right.
And so we usually kind of ignore or don't put any energy into those things that don't come easy to us, right? And so what happens is that when we start to rub up against those in life, and we'll use my process of creating a book, writing a book as our example, you're going to hit up against that phase of the creative process each and every time, whether it's starting the book, which would be the wood element, whether it's getting through the fire element phase, whether it's the editing phase of the metal element, wherever you keep hitting up against your edge, that's your missing element. And so that's where you have the opportunity to lean into that missing element. And whether by leaning, that might mean collaborate with someone to help you get through that phase, or just to put more focus on that phase. And so instead of going through the same rut that you have before, this is where you can up level and take things to the next level, finish the project. And obviously we've all finished projects to a certain extent, even if we rub against those edges, but we won't use the excuses of it's just not the right time, or it's just not meant to be, or I'm just not good at X, Y, and Z. These are all stories we've told ourselves that that really is just us not kind of going into our missing element as much as we can. And so the book is here to help you kind of embrace and integrate that missing element.
Yeah, you have a whole section which I really found interesting in using the 5 elements to master the creative process, because I'm a creative person, so that really resonated with me, you know, how we can use them in birthing whatever creative whatever creative thing that we want, like as an author, a book, or if you're an artist, painting, photography, you have it. You broke it down: writing, design, filmmaking, and even relationships, which I thought was really interesting, you know, mastering the creative process in relationships. And so it tells us about how to I don't want to say the word weakness, because I don't think that's the right word. What would be, missing element, like we have all the elements. So what would be the best word to use for the element that we have the least of?
I know. I agree. And the more I've talked about it in podcasts, the more the more better terminology I've come up with. One is our shadow, and another is a dormant. I like shadow. It's kind of the shadow element.
The shadow element. Yeah, because I don't want to say that, because it implies weakness, like that. That means that there's a problem, and there's not a problem. It's just that's who you are, right? We're all different.
Yep.
So the shadow element, so we can use the shadow, whatever the shadow element, how that's manifesting in something we want to do to get to the next step, right? Like, how would we do that? How can we do that? So
one big way, and I spend part 3 of the book talking about ways to work with other people. One that's in collaboration with and with 2 people, or in teams with more than 2 people. And I wrote this book during quarantine and started in 2020, and I could see how the workplace was going to be forever changed as a result of everything. And in fact, it was. And with more people working from home, I mean, even if you're employed, there's a lot more working solitary, working through Zoom and whatnot. And so I wanted a book that could help people lean on their own inner resources, because that's what we're being called upon to do more and more. And so I call these 5 elements your inner board of directors. And knowing
I really like that. I really like that. So go ahead. I'll let you keep talking about your board of directors. That's good.
And I'm sure you can relate as a solo entrepreneur like myself, where you a lot of times have to be the graphic designer. You have to be you have to wear all these hats, and sometimes that is necessary, to really use all 5 of your board of directors. But sometimes it is about, where is it best for you to collaborate with others? In other words, where is it best to hire out, certain things? And it usually is where that shadow missing element lies, is a good place to start to partner with other people, whether it's, contractually or it also shows up in relationships of how kind of who, and I kind of in the book pair each element with the other elements to give a description of how you're going to work together. Yeah.
Yeah, well, that's what I found so interesting. I'll just say, because I have the notes in front of me. So your water, so if we're talking about the way you laid it out, your board of directors, so water is your inner guru, wood is your inner leader, fire your inner motivator, earth your inner stabilizer, metal your inner organizer. And I thought, okay, that's pretty interesting. And then you just said something about relationships, and it made me think, how do relationships work if two people are together, but the person is with the other person, their greatest element is that other person's shadow element? Do those work, those kind of relationships, or do things get more complicated there?
No, I find that that's a great pairing, actually. So because and yet I make the point in an ideal collaboration, it's like you're both bringing your best selves to the table, and so that you're not dependent on this person filling my missingness, the plug in the socket, because that would lead to more of a codependent relationship. Right. And yet, you can also, we all like to be around those who have, these shadows that we have within. That's why we attract to other people, because they have what I'm not able to fully embody myself. And so that really is kind of a typical formula for how people attract to one another. But I find if each brings their best self to the table, that's the best success for the collaboration to go forward.
Yeah, I mean, I guess that's where, somewhat of the saying opposites attract come from, right? They're so opposite because I don't embrace these shadow qualities that maybe you are your strengths, and vice versa. So it's interesting. It's interesting to think of it in elemental energy also. Okay, I'm going to take our pause here, and let's take our next break, and then we're going to continue our conversation when we come back in just a couple of minutes. Stay tuned.
The Real Conscious Connection. OMTimes Radio. IOM FM. OMTimes Magazine is one of the leading online content providers of positivity, wellness, and personal empowerment. A philanthropic organization, their net proceeds are funneled to support worldwide charity initiatives via Humanity Healing International. Through their commitment to creating community and providing conscious content, they aspire to uplift humanity on a global scale. OMTimes. Co-creating a more conscious lifestyle.
Imagine yourself being transported to India, to the banks of the Ganga and an ashram in Rishikesh. Visualize that you are welcome to satsang with an American sannyasi who shares the wisdom of her guru. Your visualization has manifested. Join Sattvi Bhagawati Saraswati for inspiration and transformation every Thursday at 11 a.m. Eastern on OMTimes Radio.
Hi, I'm Melisa Caprio from Postcards to the Universe, creating the life you crave. Do you believe in magic? What if I told you all you had to do was get a little creative and work a dream spell to bring anything you can imagine into your life? Well, guess what? I've got the spell for you. Postcards to the Universe, a global movement for manifestation, is a casting magical tool for you to use whenever you want. How does living in passion sound to you? Join me in my movement where you get to create in the magical playground. Let's think outside the box and do some playful conjuring. By casting out our desires with a manifesting postcard, we explore our hearts and allow the alchemy of our dreams to appear. And don't forget to tune in each week here on OMTimes Radio with my show, Postcards to the Universe, creating the life you crave at 4 p.m. Eastern Time. I share tips on creativity, abundance, and prosperity, and you will be introduced to the coolest guests, trailblazers, mystics, and creatives who enrich our lives.
If I could be you,
and you could be me,
for just 1 hour.
If you could find a way
to get inside
each other's mind,
walk a mile in my shoes.
walk a mile in my shoes.
walk a mile in my shoes.
We've all felt left out, and for some, that feeling lasts more than a moment. We can change that. Learn how at belongingbeginswithus.org. Brought to you by the Ad Council.
Walk a mile in my shoes.
Welcome back. Okay, so Tisha, I was thinking during the break about some of the things I read in the book, and I thought I really want to touch on this so people can hear. So you talk about, I don't remember what chapter, I think it's chapter 6, how our workspace affects our energy. So can you share a little bit about that? Because especially with COVID and everybody working from home, and now a lot of people haven't even gone back full time. They're working a lot from home. So we have control over designing our workspace in our own home if we're working from home. So what do you mean by it affects our energy?
So that's, basically feng shui. Another way of saying using feng shui.
Mm-hmm.
And so our space is basically our second skin. It is a container for our energy. Energy is always coming off of us, as humans in an aura field. Our emotions are being, emitted into our space. So there's a whole world of energy going on that we can't see in our space. And that really is kind of the foundation of feng shui and why we do things that we do in feng shui. And our office, even if no one ever comes into your office, if you have clients from, across the world, and it's just you in your office, you are, this also applies if you're employed or self-employed, you are the energy that dictates your work. So if you're feeling good, everything's going to flow better in your work, and you're going to attract clients and whatever the case is, whatever kind of work you're doing, or be more creative, or whatever the case is. And so how do we make ourselves feel better or feel like a higher vibration in our space? Well, our space influences us. So if you're in a space that doesn't feel good, or even if some people are more sensitive to knowing what feels good and what doesn't, for example, if your desk is facing a wall, you are going to be feeling like you're always facing obstacles. So that is the easiest and quickest way to change your energy, and therefore domino out into your work, is to change the position of your desk to where it is not facing a wall. Ideally, you have a solid wall behind you. If there's windows, you can see out the window, but also, more importantly, you want to be able to see the door coming into the room. This is why if you find yourself not wanting to work in your office and maybe working at the kitchen table or somewhere else, it's because your desk is not oriented properly.
Interesting.
If you go into any coffee shop, you'll find that the first seats taken are instinctively in the power positions in that cafe. Meaning if you're sitting in the chair, you can see the door coming in the restaurant or coffee shop.
Yeah.
And so that is the power position, being able to see the doorway coming in, ideally having a solid wall behind you. And so if your desk is facing the wall, not only are you facing obstacles, but you can't see the doorway coming in. And this, again, goes to our old fight or flight brain. So it's such, and like, I'm saying these things and it's like, oh, that sounds interesting, but I cannot tell you how many clients have had dramatic changes by changing their desk. Not only in like, oh, this feels so much better, but getting new job offers, getting new client, like suddenly. So it really does shift the energy. And that's, like I said, one of the quickest and easiest ways to do it.
That's really interesting. I'm going to try that. I'm going to sit, because I face the window and the doors behind me in my house, at home. I'm talking about my home office. So I face the back window and the back door because I like looking out the window, but I'm going to switch my seat up and see. and see what that does.
Yeah.
See how it feels. That's really interesting. And you have the chapters laid out, which is cool. How to add water to our workspace if that's what we need. Add wood or fire, whatever it is, to add to your workspace to change the energy. So each chapter is laid out. You have them broken down, working with wood, fire, earth, metal, water, so people can go right directly to that element if they want, if they want to get more information on that.
Yeah.
And you also have, when you were talking about your workspace energy, you are what you wear. And I thought that was really kind of a cool chapter, because especially if a lot of us worked from home, like, for example, me, when especially during COVID, I basically worked in my pajamas. You know what I mean? So did you dress up at home, even if you weren't on a Zoom? Now I know if you're on a Zoom call, you're dressed. But like, let's say you weren't even on a Zoom call, were you dressing?
Well, let me clarify what I mean by that. And it is about dressing per the element that you need for the occasion.
Okay.
So it's just another way to embody your missing element. So it's about being conscious. And so let's say this is like the whole reason behind the power red tie, wearing a red tie to an interview. Because the color red is the fire element. And so you want to show up at an interview full of power and feeling really powerful, right? And so this applies across the board. I noticed that I wear a lot of black on Mondays. I'm in a really introverted place on Mondays. I'm like kind of, coming out of the weekend. I don't really want to be seen. And black is the color of water. And it is the introspective, the more contemplative color. This is why a lot of creatives wear black.
I wear black all the time. I wear black constantly. I love black.
I see, like, black. You're balancing out your fire.
Yeah. That's funny that you say that. Okay. Interesting.
Yeah. So if you want to be seen, you out and about and being seen at a party or whatever, then you wear more fiery colors. If you want to look organized and put together, you'd wear more of the metal clothes. And I have in the book of what that really means. It's not wearing like an armor suit or anything.
Right.
All the elements present in symbolic ways through colors and shapes and whatnot. So it's not that you have to wear a fire, a candle on your head or anything.
Yeah. Yeah, no, it's interesting because it's true. You don't think about it so much, but what we wear is how we're represented. So, yeah, I do. And I happen to love red, and I do wear red a lot, especially out when I'm feeling extra spicy. I wear red.
Yep.
It's like red and black are like my favorites.
Yeah,
Yeah. And interesting. Now, if we have a color that we don't think is good for, like, doesn't seem to, we're not that comfortable in, should we try adding that color to our life a little bit more? Is there a reason that we feel that way?
Well, if you are, if you are wanting to, like, for example, green is not my best color.
Right.
Like, as far as like my tones, and that green would be the wood element, which actually you have plenty of wood element within myself. So I don't really need to add that to myself. However, there are variations of all these colors. For example, like actually a teal looks a lot different on me than a Kelly green. So there's ways of playing with the color to where it's a win-win, where it suits your tonal color and whatever element you might be wanting to embrace.
Yeah, because yellow, I don't even think I own anything yellow. And it's not that I don't like the color yellow, I just don't like it on me. It's like, it's not in my space, it's not on my clothes, So, yeah, that's interesting.
Yeah, yellow can go, if it's like a sunshine yellow, then it would be a fire element. If it's more of a burnt yellow, then it'd be an earth element. So there's variations to these.
There's variations, right?
Yeah.
So let's say that you, we'll give an example because we've used workspace. So let's say you want to bring your shadow is water, let's say your shadow's water, or fire. You could give an example from both. So if I want to bring more water into my work environment, so what would I do to do that?
Yeah, so all these elements can be used symbolically in addition to like literally water. So like a water fountain in your office. But the water element shows up in the colors black or really dark colors.
Okay.
Also in reflective surfaces like mirrors or glass. So that's a way to bring in the water element. And like a vase of water, like a glass vase of water with some flowers. Then you have the water element with the wood element, and so there's a combination of elements there. So I give in the book a list of some examples of some of these items that are commonly found in our everyday spaces. Fire would be the
candle,
red. Candle, absolutely.
Yeah. Okay.
Because fire is my missing element. I will light a candle when I'm in the heat of no pun intended, but kind of when I'm in the heat of a project and like need really the energy to push through it. I'll have a candle going on my desk.
Yeah, I mean, I just love candles anyway, so I usually have some going just because I just love the smell of candles, pretty candles. So it just makes me feel, it makes me feel like good. I guess it is. It's affecting my energy because of the way that I feel. And I do notice that, a lot of artists, they say, are very disorganized and cluttered and have stuff everywhere. I can't work and think in a cluttered environment. Like I have to be very neat and organized, or I can't think, on what I'm doing.
Yeah.
And I find that really interesting how some people can work in like a space, like their desk is covered in papers and things and everywhere. I'm like, how do you work in that? I could never work in that.
Yeah, I know. I'm married to one of those, so I know. And yet there are scientific studies to back you up that a cluttered space does lead to a cluttered mind. So there actually is science. It's not just you. It's you're just more aware of it than other people or those that are messy.
Is there certain rooms in your home that are have a representative of a stronger element? Like, does the bedroom have a element more of, let's say, wood or earth, than say water, or that doesn't apply when you're talking about the elements?
So yes and no. So the Bagua map, that is a tool that is used in feng shui. Each of those sections are associated with one of the elements.
Okay.
And so that's where we would look. Not so much, obviously, every home is laid out differently. And so, my master bedroom is not in the love corner, and that's most people's, kind of isn't. So we would look more to the Bagua map for the elements, because it's actually the elements in their origin from Taoism. The 5 elements are 5 of those 8 squares of the Bagua map. It's in their origin from the I Ching, actually. So your question kind of takes a full circle to the beginning of the conversation of Taoism and the I Ching. It's the 5 elements come from the original I Ching.
So, and when you talk about the Bagua map, you're talking when you're walking in from your front door. So if anybody's, I want to look that up. Yeah. It's when you come into your home. That would be how it's laid out.
Correct. Yeah.
Yeah.
And
my bedroom is in the love and marriage corner of my house. Yeah.
That's always handy.
It worked out that way. It just kind of fell that way.
Yeah.
So yeah. Yeah. Oh my God. It's so interesting. Like you could really get into this, and your book was very easy to follow for people who are really kind of want to understand, and you have a lot of information in there for us especially if you're just discovering what this is for the first time. It's very easy to understand and follow along. So I really, really enjoyed it. And we only have like a couple of minutes. I can't believe it. We're like basically at the end. Is there something that I didn't get a chance to ask you that you really want to mention or we didn't get a chance to cover?
Well, I was just going to say, since we're talking so much about the bagua and the interiors, is that I have a previous book called Decorating with the 5 Elements of Feng Shui. And that book goes really in depth of using the elements in your space and using the bagua map and using the room functions, meaning the master bedroom versus the living room and so forth. So it takes a deep dive into all those areas. So all my books can be found on Amazon or anywhere that you shop online. Also, you can link to them from my website at tishamorris.com that you mentioned.
Oh, good. Yeah, thank you for mentioning that. And I was going to ask if there was, the best way people could find you. So are you on social media also? Are you on,
I am.
Instagram? Yep. Is it all Tisha Morris?
I'm easy to find. Instagram's Tisha L Morris. But from my website, Tisha Morris, you have the links to everywhere you would need to go. So yes, check it out. I have also a book on clutter that's really great. It goes into psychological aspects of why we hold on to what we hold on to, and so I have a whole library of all my work available. So check it out.
Oh, thank you. It was such a pleasure talking to you today, Tisha. Thanks so much for joining me.
Oh, thank you.
I really appreciate it. I learned a lot. Okay, guys. Thanks again for listening to Postcards to the Universe with Melisa, creating the life you crave. And as always, I'm wishing everyone a wonderful week filled with joy, abundance, and love. Peace.